I never minded working the night shift at KFC. It was quiet, no rushes, and the worst I had to deal with was cleaning up after the occasional late-night customer. But something about last night was different. There was an unsettling feeling that hung in the air, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The shift started as usual. I was the only one on duty, and by 11 p.m. the place was dead. The lights inside were dim, casting long shadows across the empty booths. The only sound was the faint hum of the freezer in the back. I was mopping the floors when the bell above the front door chimed. I looked up, expecting to see a customer, but no one was there. The door was slightly ajar, as if someone had pushed it open. I walked over and closed it, thinking maybe it was the wind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. An hour later, the same thing happened. The door swung open, but this time it opened slowly, creaking as it did. I peered out into the parking lot. Empty. Not a single car. The street was silent, and there wasn't even a breeze in the air. I locked the door, making sure it was secure, and went back to cleaning. But as I moved through the kitchen, I could hear faint footsteps. They were light, as if someone was trying not to be heard. I froze, listening. The sound was coming from behind me, near the freezer. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaky. No response. I slowly walked toward the back, each step feeling heavier than the last. My heart was pounding in my chest. When I reached the freezer, I hesitated before opening the door. Inside, everything was in place except for one thing. The light in the freezer was flickering, casting erratic shadows on the walls. I closed the door quickly and backed away. That's when I noticed something even more unsettling. A set of greasy handprints smeared across the stainless steel door. They weren't there earlier, and they were too big to be mine. Panic set in. I grabbed my phone and called my manager, but it went straight to voicemail. I was alone. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the hum of the freezer stopped. Everything went dead quiet. My breathing became shallow, and I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Then I heard it, a faint, raspy voice from the back of the kitchen. "Come here." I spun around, but no one was there. The voice echoed again, this time closer. "Come here." I bolted to the front of the store, my hands shaking as I tried to unlock the door. It wouldn't budge. It was stuck, as if something was holding it shut from the other side. I turned around and saw something moving in the shadows. A figure, hunched and grotesque, slinking toward me from the kitchen. Its face was distorted, with sunken eyes and a mouth that hung open unnaturally wide. It was covered in what looked like old grease stains, its skin slick and shiny. The closer it got, the more the stench of rotting meat filled the air. I screamed and pounded on the door, but it was no use. The creature was only a few feet away now, its gurgling breaths filling the silence. Just as it reached out, the lights flickered back on. The door unlocked, and I tumbled out into the cold night air. I looked back through the glass, but the creature was gone. The kitchen was empty, silent, as if nothing had happened. I called in sick the next day, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. I tried to convince myself. The stress of working late, being alone, it could mess with your head, right? By the following night, I almost convinced myself it was a hallucination. Almost. But that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the events in my head. Every shadow, every sound, every smell. Just as I was drifting off, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I grabbed it, squinting at the screen. It was a notification from the KFC app. I hadn't opened that app in weeks. The message was just a single line. "We're waiting for you." I dropped the phone like it was burning hot. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was some sort of glitch, a marketing message gone wrong. But the words echoed in my mind. "We're waiting for you." I didn't respond. I didn't go back to work. 3 days later, my manager called again. "Hey, I know you've been out sick, but we really need you tonight," he said, the stress in his voice clear. "It's been crazy busy for some reason, and the night crew's been acting strange. Can you please come in?" I wanted to say no, but something inside me whispered, "Go back." Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I got to the store, it looked the same, but there was a heaviness to the air. The other night shift workers, 2 kids barely out of high school, were sitting in the back, pale and silent. Neither of them acknowledged me. The shift dragged on, slower than usual, and around midnight, the door chimed. This time, I knew it wasn't a customer. I walked over, but before I could reach the door, the lights flickered again. The whole place seemed to darken, even the streetlights outside. And that's when I saw them. Not just one, but multiple figures standing just outside the windows. Their faces were distorted, sunken, and smeared with grease like the thing I'd seen before. They stood motionless, staring at me through the glass. Behind me, I heard the freezer door creak open. I wasn't alone anymore. I turned slowly, my stomach churning, and there it was again. The same creature from before, but this time it wasn't alone. 2 more stood beside it, their slick skin gleaming under the dim light. They didn't speak this time. They didn't need to. They just pointed toward the back, toward the freezer. I stepped backward, my back hitting the locked door, heart racing. The other workers remained frozen, their faces blank, as if they hadn't noticed the things standing just feet away from them. Then, as if on cue, they all began to move toward the freezer. Slowly, methodically, they shuffled forward. The creatures followed them, grotesque smiles spreading across their distorted faces. I grabbed my phone, but it was useless. No signal, no chance of help. My only option was to run. As I backed up, trying to find an escape, one of the creatures stopped and turned its head toward me, its eyes hollow, bottomless pits of darkness. It spoke, its voice a low, guttural growl. "You'll come back. They always do." I didn't wait to see what happened next. I sprinted out the back door, not stopping until I was halfway home. Even then, I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. I never went back to that KFC. I quit the next day, moved to another city, and haven't eaten fast food since. But every now and then, in the dead of night, my phone buzzes with a familiar notification. "We're waiting for you." I don't respond, but somehow I know they're still out there. And I know one day, no matter how far I run, they'll find me again.